So we are now recording. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm Adam Gretzinger. I'm the chair of the Highland NAC. We have a guest from the school district who has time constraints. So I'm going to go to them first so that we can get them on to their next meeting. So Stephen, if you don't mind, you can go ahead and present or do anything you need to do, and I can stop sharing so you can present.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for allowing me to kind of present and run. I'm going to be over at the Denny Whitford NAC immediately after here. So I really do appreciate your flexibility and working with me on this. The reason I'm here is to share with you the planning effort now underway with the Beaverton School District. And this is our long-range facilities plan. And the last time we did this was 2010, which then supported, it directed the 2014 capital bond. And that was a $680 million capital bond that you may recall. It was at the time, the largest capital bond ever approved in Oregon. And we are, with that capital bond project, we are marching through all the projects. We have about a year's worth of work left on that project. The state requires that these plans be updated every 10 years. And so we are now past that 10-year horizon. So that's the reason why we're updating it now. The backbone of this plan is to identify the needs that the district has for its facilities across the district with a 10-year horizon. And so this plan will result in a future capital bond proposal that will be sent to the voters. The board has not decided when that will be. The board has not decided how much that would be. But this is all early days in this, and we want to reach out to folks like you because we're interested to know, what do you think? You live in this community, you vote in this community, you're taxpayers. We want to hear from you. So that's this is a first step in doing that. So this lens this slide rather shows the projects we've done since 2002. With capital projects. Our decisions have a major weighting factor when we make decisions of equity in terms of who is being benefited by the projects, and we want to spread the investment around the district. So you can see here on this slide where that investment has gone geographically and some of the characteristics of the community where those investments were made. On the just as an overview, we have over 5.5 million square feet of floor area, 62 buildings, and with the floor area, think of Big Pink downtown. This is over 8 of those buildings that are in the district's inventory for floor area. So we've got a lot of space that we have to take care of. We have been investigating all of our facilities, and you can see here in the dark bands the age of our oldest buildings. The buildings typically have a 75-year lifespan. And you can see several of them are, well over that age. The oldest, of course, is Beaverton High School, and your community feeds into Beaverton High School. It's 105 years old. So 2016-17 is when that thing was built. There's been investment since, but the bulk of that building is over 100 years old. We've done a facility conditions assessment where we had a private firm come out and inventory and assess every asset that we have in every building. So things from the floor coverings to the HVAC and roofs and everything in between. And what happens is each of these assets is given a score, whether it be age of it, the warranty of it out, things, whether it's working, its maintenance history, things like that. And you can see here that Raleigh Hills K-8 is a really poorly performing school from an asset perspective. Beaverton High School is also up there pretty high, all of which is understandable given the age of those facilities. So when you see that dashed line moving across the screen, when you get above that line, it's kind of, okay, do we replace these buildings and make them new? Or do we keep investing in them and still have, trouble facilities? So that's what this slide is illustrating. Seismic condition, is one of our key factors. Our new facilities all have, immediate occupancy ratings, but a lot of our older structures do not and are suspect in an earthquake, particularly if the Cascadia event happens. Again, look at Beaverton High School. That is our poorest performing facility from a seismic consideration. When I talked about the facility condition assessment, all of that leads to deferred maintenance list. And this slide here shows all of the deferred maintenance in a perfect world that would need to occur at all the facilities over the next 10 years. $610 million is not something we can do. We don't even pretend to be able to do that. However, if we were to replace some buildings like Raleigh Hills or Beaverton High School, that $610 million would be reduced a fair bit because those schools, we wouldn't need to invest the millions of dollars in that kind of maintenance. This slide just shows you the investment of, the district made out of the last bond. Firgrove is in your community. The investment there was about $1 million, and it was for more technological improvements, security, things like that, and not major facility improvements. In the middle schools, Highland Park got more, and you've seen the kind of constant work that was going on over there during the summers. You all remember the lead pipe problem, or the lead in the water problem that we had. So we accelerated a pipe replacement, a complete pipe replacement of the school, and the bond funded that as well. So our key takeaways here are that we've got two buildings that we really need to replace, and we need to do it within the next 10 years. We have seismic concerns at several other schools, and our deferred maintenance amount is really pretty substantial.
Steve, we have someone that typed a question in.
Yeah.
That was a couple slides back, and it says, beyond the critical facilities, I note that many are in a poor category, suggesting we've fallen behind what we should be. How can we fix that?
So all of this, traditionally what the district has done in terms of maintaining our facilities and investing in our facilities has been through capital bond measures. We have used our general fund almost exclusively for teaching and learning and staffing and the like. There is some general fund monies that's done for maintenance, and that's more of kind of the custodial and small project stuff. But in terms of the large investments and that rather large tag of deferred maintenance has been those decisions that typically happen is like, we'll fix it later, when money gets short. So the general fund is a very difficult um, revenue stream, because what the state gives us isn't necessarily adequate to do what we have done in the district for our students. You'll note that we have had an operational levy approved for the past about 15, 20 years, which adds 300 teachers to our staff. And that's also separate from your property taxes. That's money that comes directly to Beaverton School District. So this slide shows you here about our enrollment projections. We have enough room in the district to accommodate all future student growth. We just don't necessarily have that room where the growth is taking place. In your community, we're good. We are able to accommodate all students that are coming in, and it all is working really well. So I mentioned the future potential bond. There are two proposals that we're analyzing in the plan. The first one is something that we have done traditionally with the district, and that is a no increase capital bond. What this does, we have bonds expiring, frequently. And when those bonds expire, these are bonds that were approved 10, 15, 20 years ago. And when they expire, we will go back to the voters and say, hey, how about you approve renewing this bond? So you're not going to see any new increase in your bill. You're just not going to see the decrease that would come with a bond retiring. And that's been very successful for the district. The voters have always approved that. And that would get us about $325 million. The second option is to do the renewal, but also add 25 cents per net $1,000 of assessed property value. So that would be a tax increase each year. And that would generate about $725 million. Let me go to this slide here so you can see what that will get us in terms of potential projects between the two. $325 million seems like a lot of money, and it is, but it doesn't go very far given all the need that we have in the district. The big projects we would do is we would replace Raleigh Hills Elementary School, and we would begin the design and study and permitting for replacing Beaverton High School. And the replacement would be at a subsequent bond further down the road. The increase is largely to fund a replacement of Beaverton High School, as well as add more money to the deferred maintenance, seismic upgrades, and security upgrades in the district. We have lots of other needs in there, and you can see where we have proposed to place money as priorities for the district. So that's my presentation to you here this evening. I am more than happy to take your questions. When I'm done, I'm going to leave a link in the chat so that you can go to our webpage and see a couple of short videos and a survey. I would encourage you to go see those videos and complete that survey. That would help us a lot. And with that, I will stop talking and answer any questions that you might have.
So for anybody who doesn't wish to speak, you can type a question in the chat box or the Q&A and I will read it for you. I see we have a hand up from someone. You can go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Stephen. This is Reggie.
Hi, Reggie.
I'm an alumni of Beaverton High School, and I strongly oppose the demolition of the school. It has an extraordinary amount of community value, as a school that's over 100 years old, and it's already been invested in heavily throughout the years, and many parts of the facility are very new, specifically the cafeteria, the Merle Davies building, the health careers wing, and many other improvements that have been implemented since I've been a student. So it's important to not tear down all of those recent investments and start over.
Yes.
That's a poor use of public money. I think it's important to preserve the school and continue to invest in specific parts of the school where they're needed the most. And, rebuilding that high school would be a major disruption to the whole city, as it is a major historic landmark in the city's core. We're already experiencing unprecedented amounts of demolition of community structures and longstanding buildings that have high historical value. So this would be yet another punch in the gut. So I think it's important to preserve Beaverton High School as is and avoid the needless heartache that the community would feel without it. Additionally, that would go for Raleigh Hills too. I don't have as much of a connection to the school, but I do recognize its high historic value, and community members would want to continue to invest in the preservation of the character of the building and target specific areas to put money into where they're most needed, but still preserve the building in its historic form and minimize other disruption to the neighborhood. With Vos Elementary, we saw a lot of disruption, and it was just, overall, a lot of unpleasant experiences with the removal of the 2 sequoias out front. And then I remember during the design process, a lot of people had issues with the facility design and the look of it. So, I think it's needless to have to go through all that again, and we can just continue to put money in very specific areas and keep the overall bill down, especially when times are really tough with the pandemic and increasing property taxes that are fueling gentrification across the region.
Let me just respond to one thing that you were saying about the investments that already been made in that school. The cafeteria is a great example in that that was funded through the 2002 bond, and anything that we would do on that site would keep that building. There's, that you're absolutely right. Why would we knock down something that's 20 years old? That would be a misuse of funds.
We have a typed in question that says, will the 700 million plus bond address the poor schools, raising them to okay category?
So that would be the priority for us. It would be to invest in those schools that are, particularly with the seismic, to invest in those schools to bring them up to a better, seismic score. And it's not the entire school necessarily. There are certain buildings or certain places in the building that need to be improved. Aloha High School has gone through 2 summers of major seismic renovation, and that score has been, drastically improved. Just as an example, Barnes Elementary School has a really poor score, but that is largely because of their gym and cafeteria. So, we wouldn't replace the whole school. We would go and fix the gym and cafeteria to bring that, that space up to, more current seismic standard.
Stephen, it looked like when you were displaying the schools in the Bethany area, perhaps the system development charges are too low because all the schools are full over there. Is that an option of raising system development charges to address the full schools instead of everyone in the district paying on a bond?
So, yeah, it's what we have for the school district is called a construction excise tax. It's not a systems development charge, so it's different, and it resides with Salem and not Washington County, for example. So with the construction excise tax, this is a relatively new tool given to school districts about 12-ish, 10, 12 years ago. And what this, forever and a day, the state law concerning schools was basically developers can, build whatever they want, and whatever impact, whatever. They're, congratulations community, you've got all these houses, now figure out how to house the students and pay for building new schools. With the construction excise tax, we were, as districts, were able to implement that tax, which the state, caps on a percentage. And it is a token amount which will not provide any meaningful funding to replace or build new facilities. It is way too low. And the argument for raising it is obvious, but the argument of, opposing any increase is the same argument that we hear with SDCs, which is we are now making new homes far too expensive, and only the richest folks can afford to buy them.
That's already the case in North Bethany. The new homes are being built at mansion level sizes and being offered between $500,000 and $600,000 or more. And that was probably outdated info even then. So, to really disincentivize people to overcrowd that area and, just disperse more evenly throughout the district, I think it would be a good idea to raise system development charges. There's a huge interest in having students attend the schools there, and people want to move there for that reason. But we can't really have the rest of the whole school district subsidize that, and then the other schools are underserved as a result.
So what I was hearing you say, Stephen, is that the school district doesn't have the power to raise the construction excise tax. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're capped.
Okay.
We charge the max.
So I have a clarifying question, because you keep talking about, these replacements. And then I guess I'm curious because I'm not super familiar with, large school or school maintenance things, but I'm just wondering if there's been any kind of cost benefit analysis of doing major renovations, because, we've already heard from Reggie, just because a school is 100 years old, there doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be torn down and completely replaced. It has a lot of community involvement. And so if you think about, on the residential side, you can do major renovations and a house can be 100 or 200 or 300 years old and be totally fine. But it does need to be updated. And so can you kind of expand on that and clarify a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to, necessarily build a new facility at, $200 million when a $100 million investment could, result in the same benefit. I mean, we do that analysis. Part of it is, systemic in the building where, there are some things that we just, can't do. For example, Beaverton High School has a load of asbestos in it, and that has, been, an issue. We have a gym that once it snows, we have to evacuate everybody from it because the roof system is so ginger, it can't take the load on it. We've done a lot of repairs. We've done a lot of abatement, and there have been a lot of things that we've done in there. And if push comes to shove, like with the gym, maybe we have to shut it down for an extended period of time to completely rebuild it, and maybe that will be sufficient.
Any other questions for Stephen?
Yeah, I have a question. Stephen, how would the community that doesn't have children going to school benefit from some of these renovations and repairs? We've
Right.
been feeling like a more distancing is happening lately between us and the schools
Right.
as far as the
And
neighborhood involvement with.
right. Yeah, that's an excellent point, and one that we are really sensitive to. And this is part of my being here is part of trying to go out in the community and not just take it for granted that people support schools. And we need to go out and be present. We need to be relevant in people's lives, or at least they're aware of what's going on from a education perspective. We are in unprecedented times right now. So yeah, a lot of people are feeling different feelings about the school district, whether it's returning students to school, or buildings being closed off, and things like that. So I know that once we get out of this pandemic, or at least have the paradigm shift a bit more towards what we have been enjoying, we need to, as a district, be a lot more engaged in the community to demonstrate that it is of value to everybody in the community.
And I know you have to go soon, so I just want to read this question and also ask you another one. The question that someone typed is, this is a stupid question. Does Nike pay property taxes?
Nike, Intel, and Leopold, and Tektronix, and several other major employers went down to the legislature about 15 years ago and went bananas about taxation, and got a super special deal that no one else has. And so they do pay taxes, but they pay it at a greatly reduced rate than other businesses, because their employers, or their major employers, things like that, that there are other benefits by giving them this tax break, that they can then do investments. Nike, as you know, has done a gigantic amount of investment in their facility, so their taxes have increased, but compared to other brick and mortar businesses, it's at a lower rate.
And do these potential bond amounts include real estate costs of acquiring new land that could be maybe avoided or swapped with other derelict facilities, like maybe a derelict strip mall, or swap with the park district or something?
Yeah, excellent question. This bond, we have the land that we need. We don't need to acquire any more land. We do have, engineering and other site development costs that go along with the land, but we don't need to buy any new. You'll take a, picture in your mind's eye, William Walker Elementary School. We did a deal with THPRD where they bought some property from us. We all worked together on construction, and they have given, so our kids, while they have that playground, they don't have any fields to run on. So THPRD allows us to have the kids during the school day run around on THPRD property. So we are leveraging all of our relationships to minimize the cost for all of us, because we're all taxpayers in that case both districts. So how we can share and lower our costs are opportunities we don't miss. And one last thing about the property taxes that I would share with you. The residents of Beaverton School District are a net exporter of tax dollars. What that means is when you pay your property taxes, it goes to Salem. And what Salem returns to Beaverton School District is less than what we send to Salem. Because the educational funding is statewide, the legislature divides that money across all of the districts. So we get on average, I think it's between $8 and $9 billion in revenue back to us. I think that's right, with a B. Anyway, for argument's sake, we get $9 billion. We send out probably 11, 12 billion dollars as a community. So that's the funding structure for schools in the state of Oregon.
Okay, we need to be respectful of Stephen's time, and I think we need to cut it off there. Could you paste the link in that you wanted people to follow? And
absolutely. And I have on that link, there is a comment page. So please, by all means, submit comments to us. We do want to hear from you. And if you want to email me directly, please email Stephen Sparks, as you see it on the screen, because if you email it to Steve Sparks, a very nice custodian up at Bonnie Slope Elementary School will be wondering why he's getting an email from you talking about, Central Beaverton. So please feel free to send me an email at any time.
okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. And if you ever have any questions or want to find out anything more, please let me know, and I'm happy to come and talk with you again.
Thank you.
All right. We definitely, if the bond measure gets out to the ballot, we will want to see you. So we would welcome you.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
Okay. We had to kind of start the meeting in a hurry because Stephen has to do 2 of these meetings tonight. And just moving back to our normal agenda, I'm Adam, I'm the chair. Konnette is our recorder and our BCCI representative. Miles is our city representative. Reggie is our vice chair. Annie is our treasurer. Ryan is a board member. And we have another board member on the phone, Juanita. If you want to talk, you can do *6. So let's move on to our administrative tasks before we move into the other special district updates. January meeting minutes have been prepared, and the chair will entertain a motion to approve them if somebody would like to make that motion. Anybody?
I move to approve the January minutes.
Do we have a second for said motion?
I'll second it.
Ryan seconds. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, board members, please say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. In the judgment of the chair, the ayes have it. Annie, could you give the treasurer's report?
Yeah. So our current balance right now is $1,299.85, plus the $5 other account that we have to have for the ownership as part of the credit union. The only expense that we had in January, the only withdrawal we had in January, was an $80 charge to make that donation to the food bank from all the donations that we had received as part of the shredding event. And I am still finalizing tonight the reimbursement for the tree planting event, and we should get that, Miles, by Monday, and we should be able to get that check. And then Reggie is working on the reimbursement check or reimbursement form for the tree giveaway. as well. And so by next month, our ballot should be back up.
Okay, thank you, Annie. Next, let's move on to the THPRD district update, and then we have some related business to do after Liana gives the district or the special district update. So Liana, could you unmute and take over for a moment?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Hi again, everyone. My name is Liana. Work with Tualatin Hills Parks and Rec and Community Engagement. I'm going to give you a update here from THPRD. As you know, things are changing pretty fast with the pandemic situation and the announcement of some of the change in the allowances for what we can do. So we do have class registration open, and THPRD has a wide range of online options. So please visit the website if you're interested in those. We're watching the COVID case counts very carefully and the state guidance closely. So we're doing the groundwork now to be able to reopen some facilities when those state guidelines allow. So please keep an eye out on their website for any updates there. And then summer planning is underway. We're really hopeful for summer. THPRD will be offering a large number of summer camps, especially compared to the last year. So in-district summer registration opens on Saturday, May 1st, if you're interested in those. And we will release summer camp info on our webpage on Monday, April 12th. We will not be producing a summer activities guide as we usually do. So we'll do everything online this year. Some things in your area specifically that I've highlighted. We've got a second talking wall coming up this month. So if don't know if you're familiar with those, but we partner with, for this particular one, we're partnering with NAYA, the Native American Youth and Family Center, and Color Outside the Lines for a second series of talking wall murals. And those are happening in Greenway Park. These murals are from Native American artists and will speak to the rich cultural history of this area. And the mural begins February 21st. And there are lots of opportunities with that, so you can check out our website for those. We also have volunteer opportunities available. A lot of our volunteer opportunities were canceled this weekend, of course, due to the snow event, but we got plenty planned moving forward: work parties, garden cleanups, removal of invasive species. The one, of course, that you all will be interested in is on Saturday, March 6th. Just a reminder of that, restoring the natural areas at Firgrove Park. And then just a couple other highlights. Fitness in the Park is back. So we have free fitness in the park options for people from mid-January to mid-March. So they're moving through till next month. And thank you for all of the support from Washington County, because they provided the grant for that. We also do drive-in bingo, which has been really successful, and other community events. Anything that was scheduled this weekend, many of those will be posted for rescheduling soon. The trail use remains high, which is awesome. We love that people are using the trails. They continue to attract a large number of people during the pandemic. We just remind everybody to clean up after their pets, wear masks to keep everybody safe. Park patrol are out on the trails, monitoring and checking in with visitors, and just to remember to pick up trash, like pack it in, pack it out. And then lastly, we do have a new park open, in case you all are interested, Unity Park. It's an athletic field and park. It was developed on the 2008 bond measure, and it includes a multi-purpose athletic field, open space, picnic table, benches. So if you're interested in that, you can go to our webpage and look at it. But that's everything from the Parks District right now. Are there any questions I can help answer?
Any questions? We do have a few things we would like you to stick around for.
I'll be here all night.
Besides, well, you don't have to stay all night, but maybe 2 more agenda items.
Okay,
Any
sounds
questions?
good.
I see we have some community members we don't usually have. So if you would like to ask questions, please do.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the 2 Park District related items. I believe Konnette was the first one, the spring ivy removal. Is that correct, Konnette?
Yes. Okay. I had two projects that really represent kind of a completion of some work that we started last year. And the one involving the THPRD was through the volunteer program that has just opened up. And what we'd like to do is finish some of the ivy pulling from the Talisien Park area as a Highland Park or a Highland NAC project. Just to remind you, last August, we did a lot of removal of ivy in cooperation with an HOA. And so we removed ivy that was leading into the park, that was impacting the border areas and a lot of the trees in that area. And so what's left is just ivy that's left on one area on the ground of that little park. And if we can remove that, that will be a great plus for that park and help with transitioning it to more of a native plant type of a project. We'd like, so to that end, I contacted Crystal DeBeck and talked with Melissa Markham, who are with the volunteer program. And since that program is back open again, we'll be able to benefit from their leadership, and what we will need to follow some of their guidelines, but also can continue with Talisien Park, Liana. It's TALIEISSIEN. And so what it would be a one-day event. It would be about a 2.5-hour project. And I think we should be able to, like I said, finish up with that kind of a framework for that little park. What I'm hoping to have is a date today for that project, and I'm hoping it would be either April 3rd, 10th, or May 1st. We'll need to have a limit of 10 volunteers, but we will also get 3, I'm understanding correctly, 3 of the people. Thank you, Annie, for putting that in the chat. We'll get 3 of the people with THPRD to help us organize and put that project in motion.
I'll be happy to be there too.
Oh, thanks, Leanna.
Absolutely.
Any questions about that project? And
Do you have a budget requirement, Konnette?
We shouldn't need. I asked Crystal specifically about the removal of the debris. That was the biggest part of the budget from the August project, and it sounds that they are willing to commit to removing the water and snacks, so I can do that at a less than $50 budget.
Or we could crowdsource it with yard waste bins. Reggie has his hand raised, so Reggie, could you?
Go ahead, Reg.
Sure. So in my experience doing like natural area restoration, you hear about like ground nesting season for birds, and what I was told was April 15th through July 15th. So considering that and how like ivy removal might be disruptive to our habitats, maybe like April 3rd or 10th would be the preferred dates.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. So we can, should I put a motion forward, Adam, to adopt
Yes,
this
at any
project?
time you can make a motion.
Anytime. Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion that, keeping in mind of a budget of let's say less than $60, that, let's say April 10th, just to give us a little more planning time. to cooperate with the THPRD to put on a final ivy weaving project in the Talisien Park area. That's the motion.
Is there a
Anybody
second?
I second.
All right. There further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 In the judgment of the chair, the ayes have it. Project's approved. And be sure to get Annie the details so it can be calendared on the Facebook and social media handles. Reggie, I think the next item, we're going to turn it over to you. If you would like to display something, I can let you do that. But go ahead.
Well, I am not really prepared to display anything, I have to admit. I'm not quite that advanced in Zoom yet. But Adam, if actually, I'll just post the link to the Google document of the resolution for everyone to look at. And is it okay if I take the time to just read off it now that we're formally voting on it?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, so resolution for the support and adoption of a permanent Indigenous name for Firgrove East Natural Area. Whereas the Highland Neighborhood Association Committee of the City of Beaverton, Washington County, Oregon, does hereby find as follows. Whereas Atfaladi, the tribe of the Kalapuya Native Americans, originally inhabited 24 villages on the Tualatin Plains, including a seasonal village called Chakapi, where present-day downtown Beaverton exists. Whereas 8 years ago, Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District purchased a 2.5-acre upland native forest within the boundary of the Highland neighborhood at the 12,700 block of Southwest 22nd Street, referred to as Firgrove East, as no official name or permanent signage yet exists. Whereas Firgrove East is located within roughly 1/4 mile of the Plains Falls Trail used by Indigenous people for millennia, and 1 mile of the present-day downtown Beaverton core and topographical lowlands of Beaverton and Fano Creeks, where Chakapi and its original wetlands existed. Whereas THPRD is developing a names catalog with underrepresented community partners aiming for equity between local communities and site names, and is joining a regional effort to develop a land acknowledgement statement and engagement strategy for honoring First Peoples. Whereas on March 14th, 2019, as part of an annual visioning process, Highland NAC meeting attendees voted to make Native American history recognition a neighborhood priority. Whereas the Highland NAC is unaware of other THPRD properties that have Indigenous-based names. Whereas on July 11th, 2019, the Highland NAC board voted unanimously to investigate the possibility of naming Firgrove East an Indigenous name. Whereas in January 2020, the Highland NAC wrote to David Harrelson, Cultural Resources Department Manager of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, for permission and guidance in selecting a name for Firgrove East, to which Mr. Harrelson responded that the tribe, through him, worked years ago to create a tribal naming list for use by THPRD for future parks, expressing a preference to work government to government on finalizing proposed names. Whereas the Highland NAC held scheduled discussions open to the public during meetings on November 12 and December 10, 2020, about renaming Firgrove East, and attendees expressed broad support of Atfaladi place names, Atfaladi and Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde historical figures, and endemic plants and animals in the Atfaladi and Chinook Wawa languages. Whereas the Highland NAC values a slower-paced, mindful naming process in alignment with and at the pace set by tribal community representatives in THPRD, and whereas THPRD aspires to name parks and trails after the people, cultures, and natural features of the region, names which inspire people and honor the diverse experiences and identities of the Beaverton area. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Highland Neighborhood Association Committee of the City of Beaverton, Washington County, Oregon, that the Highland Neighborhood affirms support for the adoption of a permanent Indigenous name for the Firgrove East natural area. And then
That is wonderful.
so this would be voted on, and then we'll fill in the days of everything, and then we'll just need the signature of the recorder and chair to attest and approve the resolution respectively. And then we would mail a nice paper copy to THPRD. I think Doug Menke, the general manager, is who we should contact, but also, time an email to the whole board so that the email arrives around the same time as the resolution, the paper copy, with the actual signatures. So it's going to be original, as authentic as possible. So I'd like to ask everyone now for any feedback and last minute changes before we'll vote on approving it.
Reggie, could you add the attestation blocks by the, oh, there they are. I didn't see them. I see that they're there. Let's take what you said as the motion. Is there a second to approving this resolution? And then we'll go into discussion, and it can be amended if anybody has comments. So is there a second on this motion?
I second.
Konnette seconds. Discussion. Oh, somebody typed a chat box. Oh, they told you good job. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say, kind of, Reggie and I talked about this individually, but I think I just really appreciate Reggie taking the time to do this, and I feel that this is much more kind of in line with what is a good role for us as the NAC to play in this. And so this feels, rather than trying to come up with a name, as though we were trying to do the last few months, I think that this resolution seems like a good support of the process without kind of taking on a role that maybe we shouldn't have as the NAC.
Okay. Liana, do you have any comments on this? As a district employee, substance structure, anything like that? Any problems?
No, Reggie was kind enough to send it out to me earlier. And so that was really helpful to be able to take my time with it and read through it. So I super appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I just appreciate everyone's support and collaborating to make this happen, and Liana especially.
Okay. It is time to vote, and what I would like to do is call, since it does call for, I see you have a yeas and nays, I will call people and ask for their vote one at a time. And Konnette, could you keep track of the yeses and nos?
Okay.
So let's go first with Ryan.
I vote yay.
Annie.
Yay.
Konnette.
Yay.
Reggie.
Yay.
Chair votes yes. Juanita's here. Juanita, could you do *6? And it will unmute you. Okay, Juanita, you should be able to talk.
I vote yay.
And Juanita's been with us the whole time, so here you are. That is a unanimous. We don't have to count our missing board member as a no because he's not here. Okay. Thank you, Reggie. And Konnette and I will make arrangements to, I'll stop by with the dogs. And
Yay.
If the
sign a
weather's
copy.
okay, maybe I'll go on a snow adventure tomorrow.
Okay. All right, let's get back to our agenda. And Liana, thank you for joining us. if you wouldn't mind telling Reggie what the emails are, if he doesn't already know that we should send this to, um, and what address we should mail the fancy copy to the general manager, that would be most appreciated if you could give us that info.
I'll be happy to. I'll send you an email, Reggie.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, we're only 10 minutes behind. So let's move on to our our police department. So Officer Barrett would like to give you some time to do an update, and then we have a few topics that we would like to highlight this month and talk to you about, especially since you're in the traffic area. So Denisha, you can unmute and go ahead.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I'm not Denisha Barrett. I'm filling in for her. So I'm Officer Klein. I'm currently a school resource officer and a newly, I just moved into the Highland Park neighborhood. So I'm really excited to be able to speak with you guys. I love this neighborhood. So with that said, she's given me a couple notes. It looks like as far as crime reports, again, this is an incredible neighborhood and the numbers are super low. It looks like our larcenies and our thefts are down from last month by 3. So there's only been 1 this month. And unfortunately, our DUIs are up. So there's currently 3 this month as compared to last month that only had 1. So we're, the traffic guys are out there really going after DUIs. Also with the officer information, she's got a couple notes here as far as most of our officers have received their second doses of the COVID vaccine. And yeah, it's been an incredible partnership with THPRD. I'm sorry, TVFNR. And they, unfortunately, slight side effects with the second vaccine. And that's why Officer Barrett's not speaking with you tonight, but she's getting better and she's hopefully immune. So that's good for all of us. It is getting close to tax season and whatnot. And so we do see quite a bit of an uptick in mail theft and ID theft. So really be aware of, kind of scooping up your mail as fast as it gets there. Or if you have a locked mailbox, it's even better. We definitely see a lot of people driving around in cars. Someone jumps out, runs and grabs mail, and then jumps back in the car. If you get a description, a direction that vehicle headed, and a license plate, that's all incredible information for us, and we can swoop in and go after them. And we've actually been pretty successful during the Christmas season in catching package thieves. So we'll just keep it up with the identity theft and mail theft there. Her being in traffic, she definitely wants to make sure everyone's safe on the road, especially with the inclement weather. Just a reminder, hey, if you're not comfortable with it, don't drive in the snow, or even the freezing rain and the black ice is even worse. But if you can, plan far ahead, as well as not driving at night, which usually tends to be a little bit harder. Knowing your vehicle limitations as well, making sure that you have good tires, and front wheel drive usually fares better if you're in a pickup. Get some weight in the back of that truck, and just take it easy on the gas, take it easy on the brakes when you're coming up to stops. So those are a couple personal things for that. We do have the city shops. They're incredible. They're working on sanding and salting roads when necessary. If you end up finding that there's a pretty serious safety hazard, you can call the non-emergency, and they'll actually forward that information onto the city shops, and they'll kind of triage where they can respond to and how they can help with the road situations that way. Also, social media. We've got, our public information officers are just working around the clock, coming up with content to post out there. They're actually pretty quick, especially on Twitter. A lot of officers have been given permission to take pictures and maybe write a really quick summary about major incidents that happen at, especially on graveyard. So if for some reason, you hear some activity in the neighborhood, a lot of times you can jump on Twitter, and there might be some actual pretty up-to-date information on there. As far as DUI arrests in January, we actually have 42 now. There's 34 of them are alcohol, 8 are drug DUIs, 6 were committed by people that are under 21, and then 9 of them refused breath samples, so they actually did the blood draw warrants. So again, our guys at night, they're being busy and just keeping the road safe as best we can. So that's what she had for me. If you have any questions, and it sounded like you had some agenda topics that I can get back to her on that.
Yeah, I think we specifically put these on the agenda because Denisha is in traffic, and maybe we should hold them, if that's okay with you, Annie. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about school resource, like what you do. We heard from the bicycle patrol. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that while you're here.
Yeah, no. So I've been a school resource officer for about 6 years now, and definitely this last year has been just kind of a whirlwind. It sounds like the schools are getting ready to do limited students on February 22nd. We've been staying busy. It's just a different busy. Normally, being in the schools, for me, I have a lot of the middle schools up north as far as like Cedar Park and Five Oaks, and then some of the elementary schools such as William Walker and Elmonic Elementary. But if I wasn't busy doing investigations, there's nothing more fun than hanging out at recess or having lunch with the kids and just letting them ask a ton of point blank questions. Currently, the way things are going, just like the teachers, we miss the kids like crazy, but we've been able to support staff and do home visits and investigations that way. A lot of times, students will reach out to counselors or teachers during Zoom classes, are able to kind of do like a side chat and be like, hey, I need some help. And then we jump in with the counselors, social workers, and the school psychs to help in any way that we can. And it's, I know we've been busy and we have been helping students, but we know there's a lot more going on. So it'll be a big question mark of what's going to happen when you start getting students back in the schools, back interacting with their friends and teachers, because that's usually where we get a lot of our information as far as students that need help, especially with things going on at home. So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Anyone else from the audience have any questions?
I have 2 questions, but it's not related to SROs. So if someone has questions on that topic, go for it first. Okay. So I guess last month we did talk about, Adam asked a question about how officers are using masks, and I just kind of wanted to kind of pass the information on again that as much as you guys can be really conscious of that and set that as an example for the community, it'd be great. I was in Central Beaverton last week, and there were 2 officers on bikes talking to member of the community, and no one was masked, and it's frustrating to see that as a resident trying to keep COVID numbers down, and so I just wanted to pass that on so that you can kind of pass it on to people, just to be really conscious of that.
Absolutely. And I'll definitely let them know, but there's also consideration sometimes when we are dealing with folks that have a form of mental illness, it tends to be a little bit aggressive to them sometimes. And so being compassionate towards that, that might have been the case where they had removed that or being able to hear each other. But for the most part, like the overall standing of the department is we should be masked up in the public. So I'll relay that to them.
That sounds great. And then I was wondering if you could comment or share any info. It looked like there was a pretty major accident on Hall Boulevard this week, where there was a car that crashed into a bus stop and looked like it had destroyed the bus stop. And I didn't know if you could share any info on that or knew anything about that incident.
Yeah, unfortunately, since being a school resource officer, I don't make a lot of the briefings where they share that information from shift to shift. I can definitely ask that and see about just having some answers for the next MAC, or I'm sorry, the next MAC. If I did it again, next NAC, if that works for you.
Yeah, or you can just have Denisha relay it, and
okay, she can do. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
We'll do that.
Maybe that was one of those DUIs.
Yeah.
Which would be concerning because
Yeah,
it was at
sounds
like
like
at 2
it.
o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday, which is also why I wanted a little bit of info. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely, and scary enough, we get DUIs in the middle of the day, so that's probably what led to that.
Okay. Well, we're about 10 minutes behind our agenda, so welcome to the neighborhood, and it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Is the shelters, I'm sorry, Adam, is the shelters open all weekend then? The weather shelters? For the homeless people?
The severe weather
Oops,
shelter
it's
is
frozen.
open.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm sorry, was that a question for me? My audio completely cut out.
oh, she just asked about the severe weather shelter
Miles
being
answered
open.
it.
Miles answered it. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay. Well, thank you, and I'm sure we'll see you again. So
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
okay. So Reggie, I'm ready to turn it over to you again for tree committee. You and Annie can take it from here.
Yeah, so we just completed a NAC event between last meeting and now, and it was the yard tree giveaway that happened on January 31st, which was a Sunday, for about 2 hours. Myself, Annie, and Konnette were there to facilitate it, and I'll let Annie and Konnette, or I invite them to speak on their experiences with the event and how it went.
Yeah, so I want to keep it brief, knowing that we are running a little bit behind schedule. But overall, it was really great. We gave away about 40 trees. It was a good contactless event, so we were able to kind of stay socially distant. And all of the neighbors seemed really appreciative of being able to get free trees. It was also really great timing because it was right after that major storm that we had that had knocked down some trees in the neighborhood. So people were really excited to kind of be able to replant. And it was really great to be able to have the contact because Reggie, with all of his knowledge, was able to answer a lot of the questions about tree care and good planting techniques, and really kind of spread that information to neighbors. The other thing that we did as well as part of the event is that we collected food for the Sunrise food pantry that was part of the church, and we were using the church's parking lot for the event. And so that's been a really great way to make more partnerships with the community, and residents were really excited to be able to get a free tree and then feel like they were able to give something in return for that free resource.
Yeah, I would agree. It was a very nice event and very efficient and a good use of resources on our part too, I think. Thanks, Reg and Annie.
Yeah. Thanks.
And we had the hours we needed on the matching grant to, is that correct?
Yeah, so with this sort of event, we found that it was definitely harder to come up with a neighborhood match because we're just giving trees away. We're not planting them as a neighborhood. So we have about a little over 36 volunteer hours logged for this. And with all the in-kind donations, including donated trees, some personal supplies, and then all of the food donations to the Sunshine Pantry, which came from all the tree recipients, we valued that at around $75. So 2 boxes, 3 bags, and then we also received a generous $20 donation. So between the volunteer hours and the in-kind donations, we're at about $1,200, and that's roughly how much we spent on the whole project. So about 86% of the whole grant funding was spent on trees, which is very good. It means that we're efficient and minimizing overhead costs. We purchased 55 trees from Chehalem Mountain Nursery, and including the delivery fee, that was $1,100. So it was the bulk of the expenses. And then we're still going to later on have a photo contest near the end of March. It'll be done through social media, but we'll get everyone who received trees to submit photos of them to maybe Facebook, and then they'll be reposted. And then we as a NAC can internally discuss the winners based on whatever criteria we suggest, or we can talk about it at a NAC meeting with the whole membership. That's just a way to kind of add a fun twist to everything and incentivize people getting the trees planted before spring. So that will be about $60 additionally. And we also purchased mulch, and it's essentially all of the expenses. So in the future, I think this is a really good event to collaborate with other neighborhood associations. I envision maybe like Central Beaverton and Vos were kind of like a trifecta of like older, more established neighborhoods, but with, you know, a shared lower income population that straddles the neighborhood. So it's important to make sure that trees are planted where they're most needed and where people have least access to them. So I'd like to do this again in the future, maybe a year from now. We'll talk more later. And yeah, that's all I have on this.
Did you get pictures of the food that was donated so we can use that on social media?
I did.
Okay.
I can send that out.
Yeah,
I
just
have-
get it to Annie.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a post this week. I've got a bunch of photos, and we did get some photos. I've got some permission of some really great photos. We had a little one in his Superman pajamas who was very excited to help load up the trees.
Okay, and I think the 5 trees at Firgrove East Woods, unless somebody claims that, maybe that somebody sent me that and doesn't remember. So maybe we should skip that. Is that right, Reggie?
Yeah, I reviewed the emails that I sent, and I didn't send that, so I'm not sure why that's there.
Anyone else want to claim that? I hope
Unless
I'm not
it
just
was-
making stuff up.
Unless it was me, but I talked to Reggie about what I was interested in, and so.
Well, it's your turn then, Konnette.
Okay. Well, one of the other projects that we had, we're trying to finish up last year that we weren't able to finish was the natural landscaping workshop series. We had one more event left in that series that was going to focus on backyard habitat certification. We had done this in partnership with Columbia Land Trust and the Tualatin Soil and Conservation. They provided the speakers, and and Miles helped us find a room, and we provided snacks. So then the COVID restrictions hit, and we ended up canceling the last one in the series. So, but it was going to be such a nice presentation, and the presentations really went very well and were very, very interesting, and I think focused on, appealed to a different part of our neighborhood residents than some of our other events have. So I talked with the Brita from the Soil and Conservation about the possibility of restarting it. And we came up with the idea of whether or not this could happen on a Zoom meeting. And then that led to the thought about whether, if it was a Zoom meeting, could we share it with other NACs that might also be interested. So I have talked with Megan Vandemark, who would be the presenter. She's with Columbia Land Trust and runs the certification program. And what it would involve would just be, I'm sorry, Miles, but probably a lot of your help with getting a Zoom presentation organized for the NACs. And I would work with you to invite the other NACs.
No problem.
And what's your thoughts?
Oh, not a problem at all.
No problem, you said? Oh, I thought you were going to say problem.
Konnette, do you have another NAC that is interested in doing it with you? Or
well, what I had, as it turns out, the BCCI are very interested in doing projects during the time of COVID that are cooperative with other NACs. And so that meeting is the fourth Monday of the month. And I thought that we could bring it up at that meeting. Most of the representatives are there from all of the different NACs, and that's kind of where I thought we could see what the interest was.
okay.
Yeah.
You may not need to have a meeting unless there's costs that you want to share. Is there a cost here that you're getting to?
Unless you can think of one, Miles, as far as what it takes to put together this kind of a meeting for.
I don't know. I can't think of any costs.
And do you have permission to record?
It would probably have to be set up similar to how we've done an NAC meeting, where you have to grant permission at the beginning. And
Okay.
Are you talking about record the presentation?
Record
or?
the presentation for posting online later.
Well, in talking with Brita, both Brita and Megan, we talked about what the format would be, and they both agreed that they wanted to participate. So
Okay.
it will actually be cheaper than if we put it on in our old format where we supplied snacks. So.
And do you want to do the BCCI update too? Konnette, could you do the BCCI update as well?
Oh, sure. So the BCCI, we also, at that meeting, we also had Stephen from the school district come and present. We had, hang on a second. We had a interesting presentation from Glenn Ferdman regarding the library and their look to the future as well. That might be of interest to some of us at the NAC. And then there were no grants that were approved for this time period, but there was a discussion about whether an additional voters forum would be had, and they had decided to do that. And
That's for the city council seat that's up in May, the new one. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. It would be May 18th. Plan for a May 18th vote. So I don't think they've finalized it's for this, let me see.
It would be in April. They're looking at a couple of dates.
It would need to be in April. Yeah.
Oh, because the election is on May 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is it just for the council position? Or,
No, they'll probably, the committee will decide, but I imagine they'll invite, THPRD has 3 board seats up for election. They may invite Metro,
oh yeah, school board seats.
and the school board has 4, I think.
Yeah, they have 1,
5.
2, 4, and 5, and council seat 2. And I think there's a THPRD seat open as well. That
There's
will be
3
in that event.
THPRD.
Sounds like
3 seats.
a full agenda at that forum. We'd be happy to help
Yeah.
publicize it.
And I'll just add, if you start thinking about questions now that you want to have answered at the voters forum, you can send those to me anytime. We're always looking for good questions from the community. Adam's been known to send in 1 or 2.
Yeah. Yeah, Adam's always good for 4 or 5, I think. Then the land use, we talked a little bit more about developing the resources. There are resources on the resource page on the city site, but we wanted to develop those along. Terry Lawler is leading the land use committee, and she was thinking that what we would want is different levels of interest in the different land use issues, all the way from just kind of a general knowledge about land use, and a mid-level information that would maybe discuss something like the development codes in more depth, and then something a little bit more in depth that maybe also talked about the application types. So that's ongoing. It will be interesting work for people that are interested in more detail of those land use issues. That's what I have.
Thank you, Konnette. And this next one will be quick, and we'll be back on time, maybe a little bit ahead. We are publicizing Oregon Health Authority COVID social media updates through the full 90-day schedule that Facebook will let you do that. So there is a communication series. It's already automatically scheduled coming out of our NAC with vaccine resource from the Oregon Health Authority. And that is a 90-day plan that I put together, and it will just happen now. So if folks can help amplify that and get the good word out there, that would be much appreciated. And Miles, can we turn it over to you? And then let's make sure to talk about the traffic commission stuff and the public safety center naming. They're missing from the list here. And then I also wanted to talk about West Beaverton NAC briefly at the end.
Let me start with traffic commission. So as you guys are aware, there's been multiple attempts by Highland in particular, residents in Highland, to have traffic calming installed on some of the different streets. I think Wilson was one. I think 22nd was another one. And though they went through the whole city process and were approved, designs were made, money was put aside, and then it was put to a vote of the residents that are on that street. And the way that it's set up now, if you don't vote, it counts as a no. So if someone didn't take the time to fill out the card and send it back, it's an automatic no for them. And they've all failed recently. And so this happened across the city, and a couple of the NACs have gone to Bcci and asked that they talk about, with traffic commission, maybe redoing the way that the votes are tallied and counting just the votes that are submitted, whether it's for or against, and even going so far as to have, if it needs to be 67% of votes cast to be approved, that would be okay. But they just feel like they're being penalized for people who don't take the time to vote. So what I'm looking for from this group is someone to attend BCCI on the fourth Monday of this month and talk with them about Highland's experience. I know that Highland wasn't a petitioner per se to get them, but you've discussed this issue at the NAC meeting many times in the past. And also, if anyone would like to submit written testimony to the Traffic Commission, either for or against changing the policy, that would be appreciated as well. We want to show that, one, I want to show that the NACs have a voice at City Hall, and that that when something comes up from the neighborhoods, it has the opportunity to be heard by decision makers. But to do that, I need help from the volunteers to take on providing that written testimony, or going to Traffic Commission and testifying over Zoom, or going to BCCI, because BCCI is going to vote whether they support going to Traffic Commission and making a recommendation or not. And sorry, the chat threw me off for a second. It's a good question. So hopefully some of you can make it on Monday and just talk about why it's important either to keep the current policy or to change the policy, and what you've seen as NAC members. And if you have questions about it, you can call me or email me and we can talk more.
And if you can get me the info on how to do the written comments, we can solicit that. But
Yeah.
so did you just say Monday, like as in next week?
No, the 22nd.
No, fourth Monday is.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we can get some folks together to go to that. That would be the Traffic Commission, not BCCI, right?
The 22nd is BCCI.
Okay.
Which acts as kind of the convener of the NACs. There's a member from each NAC represented on that committee. And it's kind of the feedback loop to get information to City Hall and to distribute information to the NACs. And it's a formal board.
And do you have the date of the Traffic Commission meeting that we should attend?
Yes, it is Thursday, March 4th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And I'll see if I can find the link to the agenda, and that says how to submit written testimony, and I'll throw that in the chat after I get done speaking.
Thank you.
The other opportunity that I have for some involvement from volunteers is the Public Safety Center has a plaza where the old Shell station was, and they have a committee of residents. They're going to propose a name for the plaza, and they're asking for someone from BOS, from someone from Highland, someone from Central Beaverton, someone from the Human Rights Advisory Commission, someone from the Diversity Advisory Board, to all participate in a committee to come up with a name or a list of names or suggestions on which way the city should go in naming the plaza. So I do need a volunteer from Highland that would be interested in being on that committee. I don't have the details of when it meets yet. They want to get all the volunteers together and then pick a meeting date that works for everybody, rather than say, if you can't meet on this day, you can't be part of the committee. And you can email me or Adam. Konnette?
Yeah, I do that. Probably just a couple of meetings.
So the other person I identified, the community member, can she also be a member of the committee? Is it, if she wants to?
Yes, I don't think, yeah, if she wants to. We're not gonna turn away interested members.
Oh, sorry. If somebody's interested, that's fine.
Oh, no, Konnette, this is usually the lady at the school that is watching the school for us. I invited her to join this, but you can join it too on behalf of the NAC.
Yeah, Konnette, I'm gonna
Oh,
submit your
okay.
name, so you're locked in.
Okay.
And
All
hey,
right.
maybe it can be an Aboriginal name or Indigenous
Maybe
name.
it could.
I don't know about associating that with the police, as the historical traumas are still very much evident.
Okay.
Okay, let me run down the city updates real quick, Adam. City manager recruitment. Beaverton is renewing our commitment to being a city that is welcoming, lively, and responsive. We're looking for a long-term city manager to keep the community's needs and wishes at the center of all that we do. So the search process for the position has begun for a full-time city manager. Our current interim city manager is appointed through July, I believe. And we're going to have opportunities for the community to give feedback and engage the community in this discussion of kind of A, what they're looking for in a city manager, and then B, once they have some candidates, they'll do kind of like a virtual meeting for the candidates, so the community get to know who the candidates are. So we need help from the community to identify ideal characteristics, and it'll be a very competitive process. It's a nationwide search. We've hired a professional
Headhunter.
headhunter. Yeah, that's not the technical term, but yes, that's what
Recruiter is probably the.
Recruiter. Thank you. You can stay informed and see where the next steps are at beavertonoregon.gov/city manager. And the council formally appoints and oversees the work of the city manager. And then the city's department heads report to the city manager. And last year, Beaverton voters approved this city charter change. I have an equity and public safety update. During the past year, city leadership and community members have come together to learn and explore experiences with public safety, as well as address systemic racism within city structures and practices. We are engaging with the community to expand and implement positive change. These are some of the things that have happened. The Human Rights Advisory Commission wrapped up the final session of the Police Department and Human Rights Advisory Commission inquiry sessions in January. They met multiple times to talk about all kinds of issues between the police and the BIPOC community. They have finalized recommendations that were presented to City Council on January 26th. Topics included police funding, transparency, policy changes, community connection, and the School Resource Officer Program, the SRO. There's a recording of the meeting available on the council website under the agendas. And you can stay up to date about next steps at beavertonoregon.gov/beheard. I got two more quick ones. Beaverton received a WEFA loan. Basically, it's a loan from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for $81 million for water infrastructure projects in Beaverton. It'll save us, this loan will save us, instead of going out for different bonds, will save us $31.3 million over the life of the loans. It's gonna be used to enhance the reliability and resiliency of our water system and meet the needs of the growing area. Beaverton has an aggressive policy of having multiple water sources in case of natural disaster or other needs that come up. So we're not reliant on just one water source for the entire city. The different projects and the construction and operation are expected to create more than 500 jobs. And you can see all the different projects with Beaverton Water at beavertonoregon.gov/water. And then this one's very exciting. The library, the Washington County Cooperative Library Services. So all the libraries in Washington County have eliminated overdue fines for everyone. They will no longer charge for overdue materials, and all existing overdue fines have been removed. This change has been made because the mission of the library is to serve all residents of Washington County equally, affordably, and with easy access. And there have been many studies that shown that overdue fines most severely impact communities of color or those with lower incomes, and they don't promote timely return of library materials. So it not only does it not do what it's supposed to encourage people to do, it also punishes people, you know, in an unequitable way. You can go to the Washington County website if you want more information.
And this is a permanent change or a temporary change?
Yep. No, it's permanent. Yeah. When I first moved to Oregon and I saw that they charged library fines, I was taken aback because my hometown got rid of them 30 years ago because if you owe fines and you can't afford to pay, then you quit using the library, and that's really detrimental for so many different reasons for people who need the library as a resource. And then the funding that came in after you take away the staff time and the different processing fees, it's not very much money across the entire county that it actually produced. So, Reggie, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could talk about the city's plan to demolish the community center and community gardens at 5th and Hall.
What would you like to know about it?
I guess my biggest concern and question is why that site was selected, and you know how a different site was not considered, where there's not an existing public owned facility and valuable community resources present that would be displaced.
Okay. I can tell you that multiple sites were considered and that they did studies on all the different sites and looked at a variety of factors in determining which site would be the best fit. Reggie, I can get you that information if you'd like. And then that site was chosen for a couple of reasons. The housing that is proposed to go in there is senior housing, so low-income senior housing, within walking distance of the senior center. There's 2 bus lines that run adjacent to the site. It's across the street from the library and the farmers market, and within walking distance of shops downtown.
Yeah, it's a great location for a community space. I'm just wondering who thought it was a good idea to destroy a community center that's just over 20 years old, when there are so many other sites that could be considered, like empty parking lots, empty asphalt lots that the city owns in downtown Beaverton, or others that could be purchased where these cultural resources would not be disturbed.
That would be a good question for the housing manager, Javier. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but you're welcome to invite him to a meeting and have him speak to it. I'm not a housing expert. I did run the community center for many, many years. And I can tell you that facility was very underutilized by the community, which isn't to say that that's a good reason or a bad reason to tear it down and turn it into something else. I don't have an opinion on it.
Seems horribly short-sighted to get rid of it now as downtown Beaverton is growing. The need for it can only increase, and also so many other options can be explored, such as repurposing it as a multicultural center, which would be in alignment with the Allen Boulevard District Plan, or even just a better sign and increased promotion of it throughout the city as a viable facility. So many people, I guarantee, do not know what it is, but a lot of people in the community are angry about this proposal because a community center is an incredibly important resource, and it doesn't make sense to destroy a building that was publicly funded and is still relatively young. Especially the community gardens too, not to mention the displacement of all of the gardeners there.
Is there a decision date on it, on this, the document that you looked at, Reggie? Do we have time to have them at the meeting next month?
I think we should, just because this is a really important issue, and it's
but presumably what you were reading is got a comment by X date. Is that deadline before our March meeting?
You know, I didn't even find out about this until yesterday, and city council just discussed this on Tuesday this week. So I think there's, you know, suboptimal communication on this major proposal, considering, you know, I didn't know about this, and I consider myself pretty well connected to local issues. I don't know what the comment period is, but I did, you know, watching the recap of the city council meeting, it sounded like, you know, city council hadn't officially approved it yet. It was still in the planning stages. So I really hope that's not too late to look at a different site where the community center would still be able to remain intact, as well as the community gardens. And we just lost
and so who,
where the police station was, so this is really unacceptable.
So I'm going to put the link to where the information is. There's an FAQ about that particular project, I believe. Yeah. And it's going to be updated very soon, and I've asked for a copy as soon as it's finished. Be happy to email that out to the board too, so you don't have to keep checking the website to see when it's been updated. Let me put this link in the chat. I think somebody asked for it.
so who would administer the property if the senior housing goes forward? Is it?
Who would oversee the property?
Mm.
I don't know that the decision's been made yet, but the way that affordable housing works is the city partners with a nonprofit that specifically provides services at this type of service. So just like the Marianne, the city's not going to be in charge of the upkeep of that building. We have a partnership with.
Will the city still own the land?
You know, I don't know. I believe so. Or yeah, I believe we do we would still own the land. Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the link for anybody who's interested. And yeah.
Okay. And I think you had a couple other things on your city updates. Maybe we should let you get back on track since we're so far over the time.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on my city updates. I think you had some questions for me.
I was hoping we could get the street sweeping schedule out of you so we could promote that, you know, for people to move their cars off the street in some way that we can make it more effective for the city.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any sort of graphic we could get that would be Highland specific or something.
I have an update on that because I've reached out to the department that's in charge of that, and they told me that they don't actually have a specific schedule.
That's not true.
Okay, because they told me that they couldn't tell me specifically. They said it'll happen sometime. Typically in the Highland neighborhood, typically it happens sometime in the second week of the month. But they couldn't.
That is true. They tell it's by week. So first
yeah, so they won't tell you the day. So it's hard to try to plan because you can't move your car for a full week a lot of times. I mean, or you can, but it's inconvenient. Which is really different than any other city I've lived in, including larger cities. Typically, it's a little bit like you know when it's going to happen.
It looks like most of Highland is in B2 and C3. or C2. Um,
Andy, I'm
Yeah.
happy to ask about that.
yeah, I'd like to try to help because I think we're missing out on the service, and the street
Yeah.
sweeper is dodging cars and sometimes garbage cans, and it's there. It's not getting. It's not cleaning up the edges of the streets, and it could be
Sure.
better. I think we can help.
Yeah. I'll go straight to the top, Andy, and ask the director.
That sounds great. And if you can also just like Adam said, I think it's an underlying, like, we're paying for the service and the service isn't being as effective. And I think especially during COVID times with everyone staying at home, like, half of our street has additional cars. And I can just speak from personal experience of, like, it gets missed, and especially in the winter when it's mossy and we have all the leaves. And I know throughout the whole neighborhood. So
Okay. And then if I might ask you, I might know the answer. It is my understanding that the city is litigating with Comcast for unpaid franchise fees.
Actually, well, the litigation is Comcast is suing the city and asking for.
They're asking for their money not to pay?
They want $3 million in damages from the city, plus attorney's fees and 9% interest. Because the
Wow.
city charges them, as I understand it, the city, so the right of way, the streets, the section of next to the street up to the sidewalk, and the sidewalk too, but usually in that planter strip is where all the underground cables run for Comcast and Northwest Natural and PGE. That's all public property. It's owned by all the residents of Beaverton. And if a private company wants to come in and use that space to produce a profit for themselves, the city has decided that it's appropriate that they pay a fee based on that profit that they're going to make. And Comcast has said that the city can't do that, and that they should be able to run their lines on public property without paying a fee based on the profit that they'll create.
Okay. Well,
It's
thank
kind
you
of a
for,
big deal. So
yeah, thank you for the info.
yeah, and there's outside, the city's hired an outside attorney's service, and it's being litigated right now.
Any other questions for Miles?
Hey, Reggie, also mentioned he dropped the city mail for comments to council and the mayor. The Times newspaper is publishing each week the direct emails for each councilor and the mayor in the newspaper and the online edition too. So if you want to contact a specific counselor, that's a great way to do it, and it gets right into their inbox first before it goes through staff.
So the city mail goes through staff, and then how do we know that the elected leadership sees it?
They do. They see them all.
It's just
Staff
like
just directs it to the appropriate. If it's meant to go to all of them, then they send it to all of them at once. If it specifically says this email is for Councilor Sansucci, then they direct it to him.
Sure.
Did you just say that somebody's filing a public records request weekly and publishing everything weekly?
No, just the Valley Times newspaper publishes the emails for your elected officials, for all the elected officials in Washington County, I think, in the newspaper each week. That's something new they've been doing.
Okay.
I just mentioned it because I noticed it, and I think if you want to contact your city councilors, that's a great way to get right into their inbox.
Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted a moment to talk about West Beaverton NAC. Former councilor Arnold is no longer a city councilor, and she's restarting the West Beaverton NAC. And I've been providing some guidance and some suggestions on how to get started, including some of our programming. So we may see more interest from her. I see Reggie had his hand up. Reggie, do you?
Oh, I just had a comment at the end, but I mean, it was really valuable to have Councillor Arnold, former Councillor Arnold, at our meeting event at Talisien Park over the summer.
Well, now she wants help from us because she is, now that she's ended her public service career, restarting a public service career as a NAC. Well, she wants to restart that NAC, and our NAC is one of the models for what she wants to do in the West Beaverton NAC. So I have shared a lot of information with her about what we've been doing and how she can get people involved to get started. And Reggie, I think she would very much appreciate, I'm sure, getting some of those environmental programs going over there. But I told her all about them that we had been doing. Anyways, let's do a roundtable real quick. I know we're way over time. So, Konnette, do you have anything?
One I didn't mention, but one of the things that we saw at BCCI was a presenter on the development of the Cooper Mountain neighborhood, new neighborhood going in over there. Miles knows. I thought that would be a good topic to hear more about.
I agree.
If we could invite. That's it.
Would you say that is more or less important than the community center development?
Probably less than the community.
Okay.
There's time on that one too. They're just now working on the plans that will take years to put together.
Okay. Because I think we might have our hands full next month if we can get the.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Okay. Annie, do you have anything?
Yeah, I need to make a quick motion to write a $20 check to Sunrise Pantry as part of the donation.
So that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we have a second discussion. This is just a pass-through donation for
Yep.
from a cash donation. Okay.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. In the judgment of the
Aye.
chair is the ayes have it.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then I also know we're short on time, so we could continue this conversation next time. But I did just want to let everyone know that the Traffic Commission voted to approve the pedestrian beacon lights that cross at Hall and Sabin. And I wanted to also say thank you to Miles for getting me the info because the Traffic Commission had sent out, that public info, but hadn't made it really clear that it was a Zoom meeting. And so it was just a little difficult to actually participate in the meeting. And so apparently I was the only public member, even though they had a sign out on Hall for months. They didn't make it very clear that it was a Zoom meeting. But I think it would be a nice longer discussion, especially since we have a panelist that wants to know about how to decrease the speed at Hall. So.
All right, Reggie, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just had a couple addendum items for tree topics. First, one thing we didn't quite get to was what to do with the leftover trees from the tree giveaway. We have about 20 or so leftover trees that we kind of over-ordered in the case that additional people signed up at the last minute. So we're still accepting signups for the trees, but I also wanted to see if we could get them planted before the growing season starts and give them some time to establish. So I wanted to hear from everyone, what do you think we should do with a lot of the native trees that we still have? A couple ideas are save them until next year's giveaway event, plant them in natural areas. It could be Talisien or Firgrove Park. Firgrove Park would be easier because park adoption volunteers are already planting trees in there, but we would just run this by Crystal and Melissa for maybe Talisien. Could be incorporated with a weeding event or later on. We'd look at donating them to Beaverton Christian Church or HOAs and just kind of go through outreach to those groups. What do you guys all think real quick? I just want to get the ball rolling on this.
I think all of those sound good, Reggie, and I'd add to reapproach some of the renter owners.
Reggie,
well.
I think we could probably use it to get folks involved in our NAC by offering them the tree and to plant it in their private property yard, where you think that might be a good idea. Like we could do drop a couple letters, wait 5 days, see if they're interested or not, and move on to another group. What do you think of something like that?
Yeah, that'd be great too. Okay, that's helpful. I just wanted to get kind of an informal feel for what we want to do with them.
I think it would be good to get them in the ground, and we can buy new trees next year.
Yeah, I actually want to buy like better quality stock, but that's easy. So I apologize for taking up an extra time, but I really want to get to this. Recently, THPRD has kind of given the go-ahead for moving forward with a tree planting proposal for Schiffler Park. And I'm working with none other than John from our lovely NAC, our former chair, who now lives in Central Beaverton. And just kind of wanted to collaborate with Central Beaverton for this. About a dozen trees, be very similar to our Channing Heights tree planting event 3 years ago. But I just want to hear from everyone if this is something that we'd like to do, like collaborate with Central Beaverton NAC, maybe provide consultation, some supplies like your canopy, tables, anything like that to help them get a tree planting event within their own NAC. This would be within the first quarter of winter 2022. So we're still really far out, but the planning is happening now.
Yeah, as long as we're not going to use the equipment during the same weekend or time frame, sounds great. And it sounds like they'll be submitting the matching grants, so we don't have to do that paperwork.
Yeah, we're actually going to, by request of the Park District, put together a memorandum of understanding. And that can involve the Highland NAC as a collaborator.
Okay.
All right, great. I'll update more on the next meeting, but in the meantime, I'm going to move forward with discussions with Central Beaverton NAC.
Okay.
The other thing is just planning our own tree planting event for the last quarter of this year. I want to focus on another area of the neighborhood. So the two areas that I had in mind, but I'm also soliciting feedback from everyone right now, is the area along Dale Avenue between 22nd Street and Allen. It has a lot of impact of pollution and noise from Allen Boulevard, and there's a lot of tall buildings nearby. So there's an increased need for trees around there. Also continuing to offer trees to folks in Wilson Park, maybe going a little bit further west towards Murray this time. Does anyone have any ideas of where we should focus our next planting effort for like 25 street and yard trees?
I was thinking there's an area where Wilson Avenue curves around that has a lot of gaps. That's one particular area. It's kind of over near Konnette's house. As it turns a corner there, it's very harsh for the very few trees. That might be an area where we could get some installed, or maybe you could offer the free ones now in that location.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So that's Wilson from Hart. What's your street, Konnette? 32nd, 31st?
Highland or 130, oh, the one I actually am on is 31st between
Where
Highland and
where
132nd.
Wilson intersects, kind of near your area. There's a lot of residents that have absolutely no tree cover
Yeah,
on their
that's
houses.
it's true. Mhm.
Great idea. I'd love to address that area.
Okay. I have nothing. Ryan, do you have anything?
I do not.
And Juanita is with us. Do you have anything, Juanita?
I do not.
Okay. With that, we are way over, and I would like to adjourn the meeting.
Hey, Reggie, do you have a second after we stop to hang on?
Yeah.
So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to stop recording now.